It was almost midnight when the knock came. The man froze. Nobody ever knocked on his door this late. Slow, heavy knocks, one after another. When he opened the door, his breath caught. A woman stood there, her clothes torn, her skin covered in dust, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She was not human. Her hands shook as she held out 3 dirty, crumpled dollars. Her voice trembled. "I have only $3. Please, let me in, human." For a moment, silence filled the night. Who was she? Why was an alien begging at his doorstep? With only $3? And what would happen if he let her inside? The night was quiet, too quiet for his liking. The man sat alone in his small house at the edge of town, sipping on warm tea and reading an old book. Everything felt normal until he heard 3 slow knocks on the door. He froze, his hands still holding the cup. Nobody ever came to his home this late. The clock on the wall ticked past midnight, and the sound of those knocks felt heavy, almost unnatural. He waited, thinking maybe it was the wind, but then the sound came again, clear and certain. Someone was really out there. He stood up slowly and walked to the door, his footsteps careful on the wooden floor. With each step, he felt his heart beating faster. He turned the handle and opened the door just a little, enough to peek outside. What he saw made him stop breathing for a moment. A woman stood there. Her clothes were dirty, torn at the edges. Her hair looked like it hadn't been washed in weeks, and her skin was covered in a thin layer of dust. But that was not what shocked him the most. Her eyes. They glowed faintly, like small pieces of light hidden in the dark. Her face looked human, but not completely. There was something different, something otherworldly about her. She was trembling as if she had been standing there for hours in the cold. In her hand, she held a few crumpled bills, $3, old and dirty. Her voice cracked as she spoke, almost like a whisper. "I have only $3, she said, looking directly at him with those glowing eyes. "Please, let me in, human." The man blinked. For a second, he thought maybe he was dreaming. An alien woman, standing at his door, asking to come inside with only $3 to her name? It made no sense at all. He opened the door a little wider, studying her carefully. She didn't move closer. She just stood there, waiting, as if even one wrong word from him would send her running away. Her hands shook so badly that the money almost slipped from her fingers. "Why me?" the man finally asked, his voice low. "Why are you here at my door?" She lowered her head, as if ashamed to answer. "Because you are human, and I need help." "They will not help me." "No one will." The man looked out into the empty street. It was dark, with only a broken lamp flickering at the corner. He saw no one else, but her words made him uneasy. Who were they? And why was she running? Still, there was something in her voice, something fragile that pulled at him. She looked desperate, but not dangerous. He could see how weak she was, how she swayed a little as if her legs might give up any moment. "You only have $3? he asked again, almost in disbelief. She nodded slowly. "It is all I was given. All I have left, please. Only a place to wash, a place to sit. Just for tonight." The man's first thought was to close the door. He was just an ordinary person, not someone who could deal with strange visitors, especially not an alien standing on his doorstep. But the way she looked at him, with tired eyes and trembling hands, made him hesitate. His silence stretched on, and for a moment, he saw fear in her face, as if she thought he would turn her away. She whispered again, softer this time, "Please." Against his better judgment, the man stepped aside and opened the door wider. "Come in," he said quietly. Her eyes widened, almost like she couldn't believe he had agreed. She walked in slowly, clutching the $3 tightly as if they were her last piece of hope. She looked around the small house, nervous, careful with every step, like someone who had never been in a place like this before. The man closed the door behind her, still unsure of what he had just done. He watched as she stood near the table, her eyes moving across the simple room. She looked lost, like someone far away from home. For a while, neither of them spoke. The man poured another cup of tea and set it on the table in front of her. She stared at it, then at him, as though she wasn't sure if it was really for her. When he nodded, she took the cup with both hands, holding it close for warmth. She did not drink right away. Instead, she whispered, "Thank you." The man sat across from her, studying her carefully. She looked young, though her tired eyes carried a weight far older. Her clothes told a story of hardship, and the way she held herself told another a story of someone hiding, someone afraid. "What are you running from?" he asked gently, her hands tightened around the cup. She did not answer at first. Her gaze dropped to the $3 lying on the table, as if they explained everything. Finally, she whispered, "You would not believe me if I told you." The man leaned back in his chair, his mind full of questions. Who was this alien woman? Why had she chosen his door out of all the others? And what kind of danger was close behind her? As the clock ticked on, he realized one thing for sure. His quiet, ordinary night was over. Whatever secret she carried, it was now inside his home. And it had only begun with $3 and a desperate knock at the door. The small house felt different now. The man had shared his space with no one for a long time. And yet tonight an alien woman sat at his table, holding a warm cup of tea like it was the most precious thing she had ever touched. Her glowing eyes softened in the dim light, but they still carried a hidden sadness. She took a careful sip, her hands shaking slightly, as though even this simple drink was something rare to her. The man noticed how she studied every corner of the room, as if trying to understand what it meant to live as a human. She looked at the books on the shelf, the clock on the wall, even the worn rug under her feet. Everything seemed to surprise her. "You are kind," she whispered at last. "I was not sure you would let me in." The man gave a faint smile, though questions pressed hard in his mind. "You were standing out there in the cold with nothing but $3. I couldn't just close the door." Her fingers touched the crumpled bills still lying on the table. She looked at them with a mixture of shame and longing. "These 3 pieces of paper, they mean so much here. But for me, they are only a memory given by someone I lost." The man leaned forward. "Who gave them to you?" She lowered her gaze. For a long moment, she said nothing. Finally, she whispered, "Someone who believed I should survive. Someone who is gone now." The man did not press further. He could see that every word carried weight she was not ready to share. Instead, he asked gently, "Why come to me? You could have gone to anyone in town." Her glowing eyes lifted to meet his. "Not anyone. Many humans look at me with fear or anger. They turn away before I can speak. You opened the door." The man felt something stir inside him, a quiet sense of responsibility he had not asked for, but could not ignore. Still, doubts filled his mind. Who was she truly? What had she left behind? And why did she appear so desperate now? As if sensing his thoughts, she set the cup down carefully and folded her hands. "I know you wonder what I am. I will not tell you everything tonight, but I can say this: I am not safe outside. And if I stay here, you may not be safe either." The man's chest tightened. He glanced at the dark window. The street outside was silent, but silence could hide many things. He felt as though invisible eyes were already searching. She noticed his unease and spoke softly. "Do not fear. I will not bring harm to your home. I only ask for one night. Just one." Her voice trembled as she said those last words. The man could hear the exhaustion behind them. He nodded slowly. "One night," he agreed. Relief washed across her face, though it was mixed with a quiet sadness, as if she knew the morning would bring more than either of them was ready for. She rose from the chair and stepped toward the small washroom. She paused at the doorway, turning back to him. "Human," she said gently. "You did something rare tonight. You listened. You gave me a place when no one else would. I will not forget this." The man did not answer right away. He simply watched her disappear into the other room, the faint glow of her eyes fading into the shadows. When he was alone again, he sat in silence, staring at the $3 left on the table. He wondered what kind of journey had brought her here, to his door, with nothing but a broken voice and those torn bills. He wondered why she trusted him, a stranger, with her fragile secret, and most of all, he wondered what would come after this night. When the world outside realized she was here, that the clock ticked past 1 in the morning. He tried to return to his book, but the words blurred. No matter how hard he tried, he could not shake the feeling that his life had just changed forever, and that the story behind the alien woman's glowing eyes was only beginning. The night stretched on, heavy with silence. The man tried to rest in his chair, but his thoughts refused to settle. Somewhere in the small washroom, the alien woman moved softly, the sound of running water reminding him she was still there, just a few steps away. He had let her in, and now he felt the weight of that choice. After a while, she stepped back into the room. Her hair was damp, falling over her shoulders in uneven strands. Her skin looked cleaner, though faint lines of exhaustion still marked her face. Without the dust and dirt, she appeared even more strange. Her features were close to human, but not completely. The glow in her eyes was clearer now, like two small lanterns that carried secrets. She sat quietly at the table, folding her hands together. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The man finally broke the silence. "You said outside is not safe for you. Who are you hiding from?" Her eyes lowered, and for a moment he thought she would refuse to answer. Then she whispered, "I escaped. That is all you need to know." The man leaned forward slightly. "Escape from where?" She shook her head, her damp hair brushing against her shoulders. "If I tell you, you may not believe me, or worse, you may not want me here anymore." He studied her closely. The fear in her voice was not the kind that came from lying, it was the kind that came from living, with something too heavy to carry alone. "Try me," he said softly. Her glowing eyes met his again. "I was not meant to be free. I was kept by those who wanted to use me. I left with nothing but these 3 pieces of paper. They were given to me by someone who risked everything to help me escape." She reached out and touched the worn bills on the table, her fingers trembling. "I carry more than myself. That is why they are searching. That is why I cannot stay in one place for long." The man's chest tightened. The words were simple, but they carried weight. He had no idea who they were, or what she meant by carry more. Yet every part of him sensed she spoke the truth. "You chose this town," he said quietly. "You chose my door. Why here?" Her voice grew softer, almost like a confession. "Because your world feels different. Humans look at the stars with hope. My kind has forgotten hope. When I saw you standing there tonight, I thought maybe you would not close the door." The man had no answer for that. He looked away toward the window. The street outside lay still, but something about it felt uneasy. He thought he saw a shadow move beneath the broken lamp, though it might have been nothing more than the wind. He turned back to her. "If they are searching, won't they find you here?" Her silence said more than words. She was listening too, her glowing eyes fixed on the door as though she already felt the presence of unseen watchers. "You should rest," the man said, though the words sounded hollow. "I have a small room you can use for the night." She gave a faint nod. As she rose to her feet, she whispered, "Thank you, human. I know I bring trouble to your door, but you are the only one I can trust." Her words lingered in the air long after she disappeared into the small room. The man sat alone again, staring at the $3 still lying on the table. The paper looked ordinary, yet now it seemed to hold a weight far beyond its value. He tried to close his eyes, but sleep refused to come. Somewhere in the quiet, he thought he heard footsteps outside, slow and searching. He held his breath, waiting, but the sound faded into silence. Perhaps it was only his imagination. Perhaps not. One thing was certain: the stranger in his house was not just another wanderer. She carried secrets, and those secrets were already drawing shadows closer to his door. And though he did not yet know it, his choice to let her in was about to change everything. The morning came quietly, but the man felt no rest in it. He had managed only a few hours of uneasy sleep. When he stepped into the small kitchen, the alien woman was already awake, sitting at the table with her hands folded neatly in front of her. The 3 crumpled dollars still lay there, untouched, as if they were more important to her than food or warmth. She looked at him with tired eyes that seemed older than her face. "You did not sleep well," she said softly. He gave a faint shrug. "Neither did you." Her gaze shifted toward the window, where pale sunlight leaked through the curtains. "It is never safe for me to rest deeply. They are always near, even when I cannot see them." The man paused. He had heard her say the word "they" before, but now it felt heavier, as though she carried an invisible shadow around her. "Last night I thought I heard footsteps outside," he admitted. "Were they real?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, they are always searching." The words sent a chill through him. He walked closer and sat across from her. "Why here? Why risk coming to this place if they follow you everywhere?" Her glowing eyes lifted to meet his. "Because running is the only choice I have. And because I hoped humans would not turn me away. I hoped someone would see me as more than what I am." He wanted to ask more, but before he could, there was a soft sound outside like the brush of movement against the wall. Both of them went still. The woman's eyes sharpened, glowing brighter as she tilted her head, listening carefully. "They are near," she whispered. The man's throat went dry. He glanced toward the door, though it remained closed, quiet and ordinary. Yet the air felt heavier, as though unseen watchers circled the house. He lowered his voice. "What do they want from you?" Her hand tightened around the cup she held. "Not just me. What I carry. Something within me they cannot allow to be free. They would rather silence me than let it reach others." He leaned closer, his voice hushed. "And what is it you carry?" For a moment she did not speak. Then, almost in a whisper, she said, "Hope." The man blinked, unsure if he had heard her correctly. "Hope," she nodded. "A part of my world. Something they fear humans could awaken. I cannot explain it all yet. But I know this, if they find me, the little hope I carry will be lost forever." He sat back, his thoughts racing. He was just one man, living an ordinary life. Yet now he found himself sitting across from someone whose very presence seemed to matter to forces far larger than he could understand. The sound outside grew faint again, as if whoever was there had moved on. But the unease did not leave the room. The woman folded her arms around herself, her voice trembling slightly. "If I stay, they will come back, stronger. You must decide if I remain here or if I go." The man looked at her for a long moment. She was asking him to make a choice that could change everything. Yet she did not demand it. She simply placed the choice in his hands. "You should not be alone." He said quietly, "If you leave now, where will you go?" Her lips curved in the smallest, saddest smile. "I do not know, but I have learned to walk until my legs cannot carry me. That is how I have survived." He felt something tighten in his chest at her words. He could not imagine sending her back into the world with nothing but $3 and shadows chasing her. And yet, letting her stay might bring danger to his doorstep. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the faint ticking of the clock on the wall. Finally, he spoke. "Stay, for now. We will find a way." Her glowing eyes softened, relief flooding them for the first time since she arrived. "You risk much, human." "I will not forget it." He managed a small smile, though deep inside he felt the weight of what he had just agreed to. Already, the quiet life he once knew was gone. Outside, the street looked calm in the morning sun. But the man understood it was only an illusion. The watchers were still out there. The chase had only just begun. The morning sun rose slowly, casting a soft glow through the curtains of his small home. He hadn't slept much. His thoughts kept returning to the alien woman resting in his spare room. She looked so fragile, so different, and yet there was something about her presence that filled the house with a quiet warmth. He brewed himself a cup of coffee, trying to act like everything was normal, but deep down, he knew nothing in his life would ever be normal again. A faint sound of footsteps came from the hallway. When he turned, she was there, standing shyly at the doorway. Her hair was still damp, her eyes cautious but a little brighter than the night before. She looked at him like she was trying to understand something more than words could explain. He noticed she kept glancing at the window, almost as if she feared someone might be watching. He tried to smile, to put her at ease, and asked if she was hungry. She nodded slowly. As he set a plate of food on the table, she hesitated before sitting down. It was clear she wasn't used to such kindness. Every movement of hers spoke of someone who had carried too much pain, too much rejection, and too much fear. He didn't ask questions right away. Instead, he waited, letting the silence feel safe for her. After a few moments, her voice broke through, soft and unsure. She thanked him again, saying no one had ever treated her this way before. Her words carried both gratitude and disbelief, as if she could not trust the comfort she was experiencing. He listened carefully, his heart tightening at the thought of what she must have endured. He wanted to know her story, but he also didn't want to push her too fast. As they shared that quiet meal, she began to explain in fragments. She spoke of long journeys, of places where she had been unwanted, of doors that had been closed to her, She never said too much at once, but each detail she gave painted a picture of loneliness far beyond what he could imagine. He realized she wasn't just asking for shelter from the weather. She was asking for shelter from a world that had given her no place to belong. The more she spoke, the more he felt drawn to protect her, even though he didn't yet understand what dangers might be out there. He saw in her eyes a secret, something she had not yet revealed. It was not just about survival. It was something deeper, something tied to why she had come to his door and chosen him. By the time the plates were empty, a quiet bond had started to form between them. It wasn't spoken, but it was there, growing in the air between their words and their silences. She looked at him with a question she didn't voice, and he knew he was standing at the edge of something much bigger than himself. The day moved slowly, but it carried a weight he could not ignore. Every sound outside seemed louder than usual. Every shadow at the edge of the window felt like it carried eyes. He tried to go about his routine, but the thought of the alien woman staying under his roof lingered in his mind. With every passing minute, she had spent most of her time quietly, exploring the little things in his house, running her fingers along the fabric of the sofa, staring at the framed photos on the wall, pausing by the books stacked near the shelf as if they were treasures. There was something childlike in the way she looked at ordinary objects, as though everything here was new to her. But beneath that quiet curiosity, he could see a sadness that never left her. When he asked if she wanted to rest more, she shook her head gently and said she had rested enough. Her voice was soft, carrying a tone that sounded both careful and heavy with secrets. Then she asked him why he had not questioned her, why he had let her stay without demanding to know who she was or where she came from. He didn't have an answer ready. All he could say was that she had knocked on his door, and he couldn't turn her away. Her expression shifted. For a brief moment, her guarded face softened, and she looked at him as if trying to measure the truth in his words. Then she sat across from him, her hands folded on the table. In a low tone, she began to speak, not everything at once, but enough to make him realize how deep her story ran. She spoke of a journey that had no end, of doors slammed in her face, of being seen as nothing more than a burden. She confessed that she had learned not to expect kindness from anyone. That was why his open door, his silence, his patience had left her unsettled. He listened without interrupting, though each word struck him harder than the last. The weight of her loneliness filled the room like a shadow. And yet, the more she revealed, the more he wanted to protect her, to give her something she had been denied for too long, a place where she was not unwanted. The evening light painted golden lines across the floor, and for the first time, she allowed a faint smile to show. It was small, fragile, but it carried more meaning than words ever could. She told him she still had something to share, something she had not revealed to anyone. But she warned him that once he knew, his life would never be the same. Her words hung in the air, heavy with suspense. He felt a chill run through him, not from fear, but from the sense that he stood on the edge of something far greater than himself. He met her eyes and nodded, silently telling her he was ready to hear whatever truth she carried. The air inside the small house felt still, as if it was waiting for her words. She sat quietly across from him, her hands trembling slightly against the table. For a long time, she didn't speak, her eyes fixed on the fading light slipping through the curtains. Then, slowly, she raised her gaze and looked at him with a mixture of fear and hope. She told him that she was not just lost, not just poor or unwanted, she was running from something. Her voice was soft, almost breaking, as she explained that there were others like her, but they had been taken away one by one. She was the last who had managed to escape. She carried something within her that made her different from the rest, something that others wanted to control. It was the reason she had been hunted, the reason no one wanted her near. Her words came out in pieces, but each piece painted a picture larger than he could have imagined. She wasn't here by chance. She had been searching for someone who could understand her, someone who could see her as more than a burden. And when she found his door, she had taken the risk to knock, hoping just once that kindness might still exist. He listened, his heart heavy but steady. Every instinct told him that her story was true. He didn't know why she had chosen him, but he felt a quiet strength rise inside him. The kind that comes when a person realizes they have been trusted with something fragile and rare. She leaned closer then, her voice barely a whisper. She said that if she stayed, his life would change. He would no longer be just a man living in a quiet house on a quiet street. He would be part of something that reached far beyond his world. She gave him the choice to turn her away and remain safe, or to let her stay and carry the weight of her secret with him. For a moment, silence stretched between them. He felt the gravity of her words, the edge of an unseen path opening before him. Yet when he looked at her, at the way her tired eyes carried both suffering and an unspoken plea, the answer rose within him without hesitation. He told her she could stay, no matter what came. Her shoulders eased, as though she had been carrying the world alone until now. A faint light returned to her expression, the beginning of trust, the beginning of belonging. She whispered a thank you so soft it was almost lost in the quiet room. As night settled outside, he realized that his life had already changed. Whatever lay ahead, he was no longer alone, and neither was she.